as I said, like, I mean, going into, so initially knowing that, okay, if I have interest in, say, for example, just coming back to computations, because that's just one of the things that I know, it can be applied for any other topic as well. So if a mentor or if someone who has already good experience in this field, he or she would definitely suggest, okay, if you do this, then you can go in. So it's like a main road, right? So you're going there, and then there is a divider, and then you can take any path you want. So that's the main road that needs to be taken. So you need to know what is that main road made up of, so that will
Like the
be
various,
told.
topics that will help you, the various tools, if you learn, that will help you, those kind of
Yeah,
things.
exactly. So those are the things that initially we'll get to know by, say, some mentor or who has an experience in this. They would advise us, and then once you would get to know, once you get to hear from them and learn according to what they say, then definitely you can choose the path, because you, by then, you would have been experienced already. So you get to decide, or you'll have sufficient knowledge to take whichever paths you want to. So you can go explore a path and then say, oh, okay, this is more interesting, and then I can explore another path and then try to combine those two paths. So it's all possible, but the initial route to take will definitely be faster and more effective if there is a good mentor or good guide to help you with.
That is, very informative. Like, during your PhD itself, right? You would have closely been guided and, you know, uh, helped with when you're trying to solve various problems. So, how important was a community? Or, I mean, this is not just about a guide. How important was a community around what you were doing? Did you have a set of people who were doing computer modeling and you could interact with them? So how was that like, if you could describe that experience a bit?
Sure. I mean, that is very much necessary, right? So there will, like, in our group itself, we were some 15 in our group. All of them had their own problems. So all of them had their own problem statements to solve over the period of 4 years. All of them had their own difficulties. But still, at the end of the day, we used to sit and talk. So when I had a issue with something, and so for example, I was stuck at a particular point, then just talking to somebody else on the topic for, say, 15-20 minutes itself will give a different idea, because it's the same problem, but they look in a different they look it in a different perspective, and that perspective will sometimes helps us in solving the problem altogether. Like, then we will be like, oh, why didn't I think like that earlier? But it happens when a fresh pair of eyes look at the same problem in a different way. So definitely it's about, like, just collaborating with different people who know the basic of that topic, and then they look at it in a different way, and then we learn something new, and then we can solve the problem quicker.
That is great. So did you also happen to engage in any online communities? Was there something like that for your during your PhD and even your work? I mean, is there something like that, or just the offline
Yeah,
ones are just
definitely,
helping
like,
you? Okay.
um, so we used to use something called ResearchGate, where it's an online platform for all the researchers, basically. So if somebody has a problem and it's or they don't have anyone surrounding them to provide solution, then definitely they post the problem online. And we used to post the problem online and say, okay, this is what the problem is, and then a lot of people would pool in their ideas, and sometimes mixing up those ideas will give us a new solution. So it's always like a collaboration online. So we used to use something called ResearchGate, which was very helpful.
Yeah, I think I've heard about it now that you mention it. So, talking about all the difficult problems that one is trying to solve and trying to get various inputs on these how to solve problems. How important is self learning? How important is self learning either in your studying further or at work,
Mhm.
because you are working in high tech industries, both in your masters and your now that you're working in. How do you deal with that? Because I don't think there are any textbooks that you can read that would come out quickly enough, and by the time you would a textbook would be published on a particular topic, I think it would already be outdated. That's how fast the industry moves, right? So how important is self learning, and how do you go about doing that?
So definitely, when as I said, like when you already cross the main road and then you're choosing the smaller deviations, so it's more of reading all by ourselves, because there would be guide who would say, okay, this is what we might try, but all what we should do and how we should do, it's all to be learned by ourselves. So nowadays there are a lot of there is a lot of knowledge online, which you can access online. So a lot of open courseware, a lot of all the research gate, one of the examples that I gave, all these online platforms where you can discuss and learn. So those things are very very useful. And nowadays, even because of COVID, like a lot of universities throughout the world have started online, like e teaching. So probably one might get used to this itself, and then they'll be like, okay, one of the classes or one day per week is just online. So they're like, it's good for one some, and it again, it depends on how we make use of internet, right? So there is a lot of things online, so we need to choose what we need to do, and then learn exactly what we want to learn. So the self learning will definitely improve our skill, because we learn all by ourselves. There will be very less spoon feeding to say, because we need to learn by ourselves, we need to solve the problem by ourselves and learn what mistakes we do. So we need to rectify all the mistakes by ourselves. So in that sense, self learning will make us stronger in that topic. But I would say, to start doing self learning, the basics should be strong. So that has to be done, and then self learning is very very useful.
That is very important, of course. And how much important is self motivation, right? We talk about self learning and everything one has to do, but in the end of the day, one has to get up in the morning and go ahead and try to solve some problems or learn something new that one doesn't know at all, and
Mhm.
break through all the kind of roadblocks or barriers one has. So how about the self motivation? How does one get it? Or when how important is it?
Definitely, like without self motivation we cannot achieve anything, is what I believe. Because if you are not motivated to get up and go and do that, then like somebody can, like, as there is a proverb where they say they can take the horse near the river, but they cannot make the horse to drink water. So even if our teachers say, okay, solve this problem, it's only if we have the interest, then we can solve the problem. Maybe like they can force us to solve the problem once, but tomorrow, if we are not interested, then we won't solve it again. So it's motivation should be there. I mean, everyone has their own way of getting motivated. Maybe
Any personal trips that you can share to get motivated? Like, let's say one of these days you're not feeling so great, but you still have a big problem to solve. How do you pump yourself up? And you know,
I don't know. I like whenever I'm feeling low or something like that, there are a lot of YouTube videos that I watch when I find, okay, there is so much more to do in the world than uh, I mean, like what we do is just a part of something. Like there's so many things happening in on Earth or in the human society itself. So that kind of when yeah, at least like personally, when I feel like, oh, I'm super small, then I feel more motivated to do something more harder things. So
I
yeah,
see.
it's
That is that is great. There are quite a few good channels on YouTube for sure, producing quality science and technical content. Right. I find I've myself learned a few things going online. Um, so uh, so do you have any recommendations, any resources online that you keep going to and you find informative, that somebody who's a newbie can really go and have a look and maybe find interesting? um,
Yeah, I mean there are lots. Actually, like YouTube is full of wonders. So there is one of the channels that I like the most is Three Blue One Brown. So there is even a TED talk by him. So basically, what he does is he does amazing animated videos on mathematics, and he explains mathematics in a way that we would not have learned in schools or colleges. It's the same thing, but he says like why it is being done, and it will give a new approach altogether. And there are other channels such as Physics Girl. Even she does amazing physics experiments sometimes, and then makes her concepts stronger. Even for space, there are a lot of we channels called I Everyday Astronaut, and uh, yeah, that's I can remember. And like if somebody is a Twitter user, then there is so much on Twitter as well. Like there is a page for every journal. For example, like Nature, it's a very famous journal in science, and they have their own Twitter handle, and if you follow, they keep posting something new in science every day. Or even for mathematics, there is a page or a channel. Maybe later I can send the link, but there are a lot of channels which are on Twitter as well, or links on Twitter which talks every day, and then there are very nice things to learn.
Yeah, I mean, the internet, like you said, is full of wonders. I mean, just 15 years ago when I was an undergrad, none of this was really accessible. I mean, YouTube was just starting, right? So we just had Orkut, I think, if I remember right. And now things have just exploded, the speed at which things happen. I mean, it's
Yeah,
fascinating.
definitely. And at the same time, we should not forget NPTEL, which is amazing actually. Like all the
Mm-hmm.
professors from IIT, IISc, or even some
Mm-hmm.
NIT professors, they
Mm-hmm.
give the quality content that we can learn at home instead of going to, say, for example, IIT classroom. So which is quite very useful.
Right, that is important. But the problem with those, as I have faced, because I've tried taking some of these courses, is it is just one way, right? Like you just have to listen to them speak. You can't really ask questions and things. It's not interactive, which is really the benefit of, being taught by somebody, or being, getting that information from somebody, because every person is different and every
That's true.
person has different questions, and not everybody can ask those questions, even if they get quality content, right? So yeah, I mean, hopefully, STEMnet can, come in there and try to solve this kind of problem by, bringing more experts and connecting them with learners, and so that they can, interact with them and learn the things that they can never learn in a classroom or never learn otherwise. Because there is some value in, like you said, being guided on that highway, and knowing which road to take. Because otherwise, in that intersection, you have like 100 roads. Which road do you take? The correct answer
Yeah,
might be just one or two roads, right? And also, for the sake of motivation, I find that several times the people working in a field, like advisors, or senior people, they also not only help you by guiding you, but they also give motivation in some way, right? So find that also
yeah, definitely.
interesting. So I had a final question about, what is your suggestion for, the young minds of today, right? In general, like, you having gone through the journey you have gone through, and you having, done, simulations and worked in uh, bio, and worked in uh, space tech. What is your suggestion?
Um, Basically, it's just to concentrate more, or appreciate more of basics. because at like when I was in undergrad as well, like we used to um, uh, most of the students, it's kind of bad to say, but that's what we used to do, or many of my friends used to do, is like we study a few, say a week or 2 weeks before the exam. But if someone like some of my friends who are like really strong in basics, they, even if they didn't study, they used to score very well in the exams, because it's the basics that is need to be learned. So give full concentration on basics, or full attention to basics, and make your basics very strong. So even if you're applying the basics to any problem, any physics, to solve any physics problem, you won't have difficulty in learning something new, for that matter. So I would say concentrate on every so if somebody is still in undergrad or college or school, concentrate on give attention to even the minute things, because this is when we learn all the basics. And after probably even after like second year of engineering or anything, so it's more of application. So it's only until then we learn all the basics, and this is where it is very important for the rest of the life.
Okay, that's very. What you said is very interesting, and uh, you know, I wanted to also ask you about what you mentioned a little while ago, that seems to be becoming more and more important, but many people don't realize. You said something about the essential skills being mathematics and programming. That I found very interesting. Why? I mean, not many people like maths, and not many people know math programming, except maybe CS and IT, they learn programming, and maybe even some electronics engineers, if I'm not mistaken. And um, and and many people probably learn programming when they join their jobs, and if they join an IT company, they'll be trained to do programming. But there is a benefit in learning programming during undergrad itself, you're saying, and mathematics, developing a love for mathematics and learning. So can you elaborate a little bit about that? Maybe talk about its importance, and maybe some one or two places where one can get started, like either programming language or math, where to get started or something.
Mhm. Definitely. I mean, when I say programming, so there are programming is mainly to is used to make a life easier, right? Like when you're doing the repetitive task again and again. So instead of humans doing the same thing again, so you'll ask the computer to do it, and computer can do the same thing 100,000 times without any mistake. So when we are doing the calculations, same calculations again and again and again, so instead of doing it by ourselves by hand, so we are just asking a computer to do it, and we cannot just, nowadays we can say hey Google and say something, but still we haven't reached the level where we can say okay, Google, add or solve these two equations and give me. So we need to still have a way to tell computer what to do. So we need to have a way to tell computer, okay, this is the equations that I'm solving. This equations mean this physics, say for example like space rocket or for a biology. So just solve and give me the particular solution. So how do I tell the computer? It's, there are different set of rules to tell computer, okay, this is how an equations have to be written, similar to how we have rules, for example, in English or in Kannada or in Hindi or any other language. So that that is some set of instructions which we need to learn to tell computer, and that's how there are different programming languages. So the basic of almost all the programming languages are same. So it's just like how you interpret, how you tell what is your problem to the computer. And like the older languages are more difficult for humans to interpret because they are directly written to the computer, and like the newer ones are made more simpler. So there are programming languages like MATLAB, Python, and they are more simpler, even simpler compared to say C++ or Fortran for example. So if you learn say any of these languages, then you can always shift to any other language. So it's just give a basic go and to any of these languages. And the best part is, So after some time you won't feel bored, because you can develop your own games, and then you can play games using this programming language. And if you are bored of solving an equation, then you will be like, oh, I'll write a program to develop my own game. So which is initially it looks very hard, but like after some time it will be super simple. And so it can be transformed from just on a computer to even phones. So it becomes more you'll start loving once you start programming. So that's how it is. And with respect to maths, I don't know, it's like maths is something that everyone uses every day, right? So it's just probably the one reason I can find talking to my friends why they hate maths is maybe it's in the school they wouldn't have learned as like something that you should that comes naturally. Maybe they would have taught as if like, okay, this is what is will be asked in the exam, so you just learn for the exam. So if that is there, then probably that will lose the uh, reduce the interest in the student. Otherwise, yeah, just watch some videos and read some interesting books on mathematics, and then you will find that okay, maths can be applied to everyday life in many different forms, and it's really fun. So you can combine these two always, mathematics and programming.